Well, that was a disappointment. I was really looking forward to watching Monarch. It took a bit for me to get around to starting it, and when I did, I kind of went through the first few episodes and I got off track, and then I picked back up again with it when I was in California. My brother and I almost finished out the season, and then I finished it when I got back home. In fact, I just finished watching it last night. And there are a few pros to this show. One of them being, it was really cool to see Wyatt and Kurt Russell working together. And I hadn't fully realized how similar they are in look-ish, but wow, the voice, because Wyatt Russell played Kurt Russell as a younger adult, and wow, he sounded a lot like his dad. And that was cool that they got the chance to sort of work together on this same project. I also liked just the aspect of the whole, they're trying to find out this information about the monsters and the rift, or what is it they call it, Hollow Earth or whatever, where they come from. I like that it was connected to the movies, the King Kong, King Kong, yes, Skull Island, the Godzilla movies. So I like that they were trying to make this a cohesive story. In the very beginning, we see a shot of John Goodman on Skull Island, so that was cool. I didn't realize that this was actually supposed to tie into that. So it becomes pretty clear early on. That was interesting. I did like the theme music, the da-na-na-na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay, that was a terrible representation, but the theme music was cool. It really set the mood. It was great. I loved that a lot. Unfortunately, that's really where my pros end. I was super disappointed at how this show just kind of felt like it went off the rails with the writing and the characters, and it started off good. I think the first 4 episodes were pretty doggone solid. I believe it was around episode 5-ish that I started to detect some wobbliness with the writing, conveniences that were happening with certain things that the characters would figure out. Way too convenient, very annoying. Behavior that some of the characters would exhibit that just made no sense given the situation. And I'll touch on some of this a little bit more. Characters that started off being okay-ish, and then as the show progressed, they became more and more unlikable. Unfortunately, by the end of this first season, where they're kind of setting it up for another season, I don't know if it's going to get picked up for a season 2, but honestly, by the end of it, I just didn't care. I did not care anymore. I have zero interest in watching season 2, and that's really unfortunate. It is kind of representative of the quality of these big monster movies. Here in the US, we've taken this IP from Japan, we've made our own sort of storylines with it, but it pales in comparison to the excellence of something like Godzilla -1. It's like, I really feel like a Japanese-based and written series could have done a much better job than what we ended up getting. Some of the special effects were fine. The monsters, whenever they did show up, which wasn't very often, and I'm fine with that. That was not an issue at all. It was pretty well done, but it was just, the story just I didn't care about the people. I didn't care about the characters. I grew to not care about them. As it went on, I just didn't give a darn. With regard to some of the character behaviors, and there's this character named May, and she happens to be an ex-girlfriend of one of the male characters in here, and she gets kind of caught up in this stuff that's happening. But at some point, you find out her backstory, which to me was kind of dumb. I didn't care about her backstory, but they tried to find a way to tie it in with what was going on with the main plot, and the way that it was done was so weak, because the initial interaction that she has with the guy that becomes her boyfriend was way, 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 way too convenient. I couldn't. It's like, okay, wow, this is highly convenient that she would just happen to walk in front of him and they would happen to start talking at this particular moment. Oh, and it just so happens that her background is going to become kind of important and she's going to want to latch on to, like, the convenience of her meeting him, and then the fact that he ends up being caught up in this Godzilla stuff through his half-sister. I just could not buy into that. I don't know, it just felt very contrived. Also, the motivations of some characters didn't make sense. There was a character, I can't remember her name. She was like they would jump back and forth in time from like the present day or 2015, because the main story, the present day story, takes place after the events of the first Godzilla movie when there was that attack in San Francisco. And so they go back and forth between that time period and like the 40s, 50s, and 60s as it progresses. And so there's a character, she's a doctor, scientist lady. I don't remember her doggone name. She's a pivotal, important person. She's the mother of one of the other characters that we see in present day time. They're caught up in investigating Godzilla and whatever, and then at some point they, the humans decide, okay, we need to destroy this creature because, yeah, I'm getting a little spoilery, you guys. The humans decide they've got to destroy Godzilla, and then at the last minute, she tries to stop this event because, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We need to study this species. Meanwhile, this freaking animal can destroy all of mankind practically if it wanted to. Why are you trying to? What? She gets all angsty and upset and tries to stop this just because she doesn't want to destroy it. And then later, there's a comment made, because in this storyline, in this iteration of Godzilla, he's a protector, okay? At the time of these events that had happened in the past in this story, they didn't know that. He had just first shown up. They had no idea. So her sole purpose of wanting to not kill him was because this was a new species, they should study it, blah, blah, blah. Then later, as the story goes along, somehow they magically figure out he's a protector. That's not even really made very clear at all as to how they figured it out. And then one of the characters said, I don't even remember who said it. Oh, well, Kiko was right. That's why she didn't want us to destroy him, because he's protecting us. No, that was not why she didn't want him to be destroyed. She had no freaking idea about this whole thing, but they were trying to prop up her actions, which in my mind were stupid, and trying to make it into something that it wasn't. And so that was annoying. And conveniences of things that were figured out. There was a scene that takes place in someone's office, and just magically they somehow figure out that this thing on the wall represented a map, even though it's not clear at all that that's what it represented. And they magically are able to perfectly reconstruct this map as it was supposed to be based on pinholes in the wall or something. And then they decide that the sunlight coming through the window and shining on the map is going to lead them to a special place. How do they know the exact time that the sun's going to hit it? Because, the sun's going across the window. It's going to be hitting the map at different... How do they know it's going to be hitting the right place? How do they even know the scale is right? And then people that come behind them, they're able to magically figure out... I think they're the ones that figured out what the holes in the wall meant, because once the first group had figured it out magically, they had left pins on this recreated map or something. The whole thing was so contrived, way too convenient. They weren't taking into account things like scale, things like how did they know they drew the map in the right way? Because sometimes in some maps, the US is over here, and then sometimes it's over here, and other parts of the world, like it's kind of flip-flopped around. How did they even know the right way to draw this map? And it was so convenient that they happened to be there at the exact right time for the sun to shine through the window and hit on this part. Oh my gosh, that was super frustrating. Then there's another part where these characters are trying to avoid being detected by guards or whatever. It's in San Francisco. It's the destroyed area of the city. Nobody's supposed to be there. They have guards. But this group of characters, they go in there to research stuff, investigate, whatever. They have missed being detected. It was a close call because they did get chased or whatever, but they managed to hide. Then later they're walking through this area, and one of the characters just bursts into song. Why? You're trying to avoid being detected. Why are you singing? And then the other character follows along with them. Like, what the hell? It was so... I mean, my eyes couldn't roll hard enough when stuff like this happened. It was so frustrating. The main reason that I continued to watch this, I mean, I really almost didn't even want to finish the last episode. I just didn't care. But the main reason that I did, it was pretty much because of Kurt Russell. Because I love Kurt Russell. So I wanted to see what was going to happen with his character. But it was just, and I feel like if I went back and rewatched this, which I am not going to do, I feel like if I went back and rewatched it, I would find many more things to pick apart. Because I felt like I started to notice things more and more and more. The more annoyed I got with it, the more I started to just notice everything that aggravated me. And maybe initially, in the beginning, maybe these things wouldn't have stood out to me as much because it was a bit more forgiving. I was going with it. Some of the characters got really aggravating. The main character of Kate, she's an important person. She started off okay, and then the more we got to know her, the less I got to like her. I did not like her. She was annoying as hell. I didn't care about her her backstory revealed that she was not that great of a person, and I didn't give a crap. I did not care. Keiko is the name of the scientist lady. She grew to be annoying pretty early on, actually. And there is something that happens to her, and then they come back around to that later on, and just the whole situation of that was just, I don't know, you guys. It was pretty disappointing. I had been warned that it falls off at the end. Like it doesn't really hold up. And unfortunately, in my case, I do agree with that assessment. This show did not do it for me. I will not be watching season 2 as of now. I don't care about the characters. The writing wasn't strong enough. And there are many more things that I would rather spend my time on. So those are my thoughts for Monarch season 1. Did you have the same sort of experience, or did you think it was just absolutely great? I know there have been several people that are so in love with this latest second Kong versus Godzilla movie that came out, or what the hell ever it's called. And I knew I wasn't going to like it. So I was listening to Fish Jelly reviews, and I swear to goodness, I think I got more enjoyment out of their 30-minute spoiler review. Well, I know I got more enjoyment out of their 30-minute spoiler review than I would have gotten sitting there suffering through watching it, because while there were parts about the first movie that I did appreciate, and I liked also that we were back going to the big screen more regularly, there was just too much wrong with that. And so I just wasn't interested in this second one. And this is all connected with the Monarch stuff. And it's just super disappointing that they can't give us something that's more solid in writing. I mean, you know, whatever. Obviously, it's all subjective. If all you want to do is see big monsters fight, and that's your thing, oh, that's great. That's not my thing. I want some solid storytelling to go along with it, and Godzilla -1 seriously spoiled me when it came to these types of and I expect better from the folks over here who have gotten into those types of stories. And unfortunately, they've demonstrated that that is a misplaced expectation. Anyway, okay, that's it for this one. Wrapping it up. We'll see you guys in the next video. Later.